Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm Julie Enzer, the editor and publisher of Sinister Wisdom, a multicultural lesbian literary and arts journal that we are celebrating our 50th anniversary this very year. This is our second event to celebrate this in just 1 week, and we have more celebrations coming. For 50 years, Sinister Wisdom has uplifted the breadth of lesbian lives, creativity, and resistance. It is a joy to celebrate these milestones across distances and decades of fierce and luminous publishing. Before we begin, we participate in the tradition of a land acknowledgement. I will do that. Then I will provide you with some words about Sinister Wisdom and some of our Zoom norms. Then we will get on with the program. We gather tonight from many homelands. Here in Florida, I stand on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Seminole peoples. We honor their sovereignty and the ongoing struggles of indigenous peoples across the colonized Turtle Island. If you feel called, I invite you to share in the chat the land you are joining from. Naming the places that hold us grounds this gathering across many homelands and reminds us that our worlds travel through real landscapes and histories. For those of you joining us for the very first time, Sinister Wisdom has been publishing since 1976. We are now marking 50 years of feminist and lesbian queer literary work in the world. The journal has always been a collective endeavor, a labor of love, resistance, and intergenerational connection carried forward by many hands. We are deeply grateful for the readers, subscribers, and sustaining supporters whose commitment allows us to continue archiving, distributing, and uplifting lesbian and queer creativity. If you are not a subscriber, I invite you to sign up for a subscription today by going to sinisterwisdom.org/subscribe. A group of monthly sustainers subscribers are crucial to everything that we do. Please subscribe. In addition, a group of monthly sustainers are vital to Sinister Wisdom. If you have the ability to give monthly, please sign up at sinisterwisdom.org/sustainers. For our sustaining members, you get everything that we publish, including the annual calendar, and we send out emails every month when your gift comes in with behind-the-scenes details and new information about what we have coming for the journal. One of the great joys of our season of events this year is the sponsorship that we have had from Karis Books and More. Karis Books and More is actually a little bit older than Sinister Wisdom. They have celebrated their anniversary recently, and we appreciate the work that they do throughout the South on to make lesbian, feminist, and radical books available. ER, would you like to say a couple words?
I just want to say congratulations once again on your 50th. We love you and we're so proud of you and so excited. This has been such a great slate of events, and tonight's readers are awesome. So I can't wait to dig in. But for folks who are in the Atlanta area, bring your friends by. They can always pick up a copy of Sinister Wisdom at Karis.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ER. A few housekeeping notes. We are recording the event this evening. I'm thrilled that I remembered to do that. We will make it available starting tomorrow or Thursday at sinisterwisdom.org/SW140 and on our YouTube channel. As you all see, you were muted on your way into the Zoom room. Please keep your microphone muted throughout the program. If we hear noise from you, we'll go ahead and mute you. As the program proceeds, you are invited to engage in the chat. If you want to show appreciation for readers, you are welcome to wave your hands at the end of each reading, use the reaction emojis in Zoom, and chat. I love seeing when people chat favorite lines that they hear from our readers. Technical assistance. We have two new folks helping us with technical assistance this evening. I see that Mel is in the room. But our real event producers tonight are Ella Stern and Izzy. Izzy, do you have it's as Isabel Drake. So you are welcome to chat and back channel with Izzy or Ella. They will help you resolve any tech issues that you have. Although I will say the final line on all tech issues is sign off and join us again if you are having difficulties with video and or audio. So this event is designed, we were waiting for a couple people in the uh, as we were getting started. So I'm not sure if everyone's here yet, Izzy or Ella, if you would look. We're having 3 readers read from material that we published in the journal in the first part of our event. And then in the second part of our event, I've invited 3 board members and active volunteers with the journal to read something either from part of 140 along with something from our past, and or just give us some reflections about the history of the journal, in part so you can see some of our amazing board members and the work that people are doing. So that's how our event is structured. I actually do not yet see Joy Ladin. And so I'm going to start. Unfortunately, Aurora Levin Morales is not able to join us tonight. I suspect many of you are here to see her. She sends her regrets. She has a medical issue that she is dealing with that prevented her from joining us even on Zoom this evening. However, Aurora's piece is so wonderful that I am going to step in and read it as a poor substitute for her wonderful reading and performance skills, but to bring her words into the room tonight. Aurora sent me this piece as we were really working pretty close to finalizing what was going to go into this issue. And it's a remembrance that she wrote about Melanie K. Kantrowitz. And so since Melanie was a former editor and Aurora has contributed many times, it felt like an important piece to include in the issue. And I'm pleased to read it to you this evening. Remembering Melanie K. Kantrowitz by Aurora Levins Morales. One sick, queer, exhausted Jewish feminist radical woman in the early days of a degenerating decline goes to visit another sick, queer, exhausted Jewish feminist radical woman living in the fluctuating but unchanging landscape of the endlessly chronic. And instead of forcing themselves to clock in for meaningful conversation, to address the infinite urgency of their words, they sprawl out across an immense bed in the middle of the day and carry out the neglected rites and rituals of napping side by side for an hour and then part ways. Melanie was the visitor. I was the visited. This many years later, I am still a sick, queer, exhausted Jewish feminist radical woman, still talking with her in my sleep. Did I tell you, Melanie, I ask, that I invented my own word for the doikite of a Boricua Jew living in Las Indieras with her double diasporas, surrounded by hurricanes and farming, Christian Zionists, and a handful of lefty Jews making haroset from ginger and mangoes. The word is Acacia. We are landswomen, untethered from land, inhabitants of all each other's strangeness, twirling our common threads, twisted with surprises, finding our way across the terrain, compasses aligned to the same cardinal points: memory, clarity, integrity, purpose, calling forth the best ideas of our ancestors and retooling them for the hardest fights of the day. I keep you in my pocket. I tuck you in my sleeves when I roll them up. I sat up all night reading The Colors of Jews, cover to cover until the sun rose, heart so warm because I knew that I was known. Camarada, I keep you right beside me, still writing words that can be used. People are shouting and pointing in all directions in a tumult of difficulty, straining at the fabric of coalition, challenging each other to duels, tripping over themselves, not napping. Dear hearts, I say, don't just get stuck in the furious. Cultivate curious. You are good to the core. Know each other and be known. Your words and mine from my mouth. Acacia means this. I have been pulling up my inheritance of story by the roots, making medicine tea from 1492, speaking to 1942, from burial mound to mass grave, asking, how can we carry this terrible, terrible without inflicting it? How anyone carries the cruelties of unjust history without turning it into a weapon. How we untangle land from territory, name from nationality. How we keep becoming more ourselves, more each other's people. I am bringing all of me to the question from right here in Indiera, my ancestral Arawak bones turned into clay beneath my feet, to way over there in the massacred Ukrainian village of Israelatevka, the dead layered in under the peas and wheat, Indian town to Jew town, and to the mountains of rubble without headstones, houses without walls or roofs, that is Palestine. There is nowhere else I need to go to be real. Melanie, I tell her, I wrote a new book of poems for radical Jews with or without religion to pray by, declared imagining how we win a mitzvah to be practiced, made a lullaby of how the work passes from hand to hand around the world so we could let ourselves sleep while Tikkun Olam continues in other time zones. This Acacia you helped me build means writing, art making, speaking wholeheartedly into the terrible, into the hope shining in the crevices, into the commons of liberation. From all my backstories and this whole body, I am sick and tired and grieving and full of joy. Because, like you, I know the power of words, of art, of collectivity. I know imagination is the root of action and spend my time, like you, stretching our sense of the possible. Every day, I deep breathe through the storm. And when people ask about you, I talk about your voice in the world. Of course I do. But I always tell this story too, how you and I decided to rest that day in the middle of everything, to lie down and be exactly who we were, where we were, exhaling exhaustion and sorrow, inhaling as if the world we dream were already here. That's Remembering Melanie K. Kantrowitz by Aurora Levens Morales. Thank you all. It was such a pleasure. I remember very clearly the day it crossed my desk. Our next reader is Robin Becker. Robin Becker is an acclaimed poet and longtime steward of feminist literary culture. Her contributions shape our landscape, and her new collection of new and selected poems, Midsummer Count, is just brilliant. It's out just now from the University of New Mexico Press, and I encourage you to buy it. I know ER will put a link for us into the chat. Robin, will you please join us?
Thank you so much. It was wonderful hearing that piece. I'm so glad you read it. I'm going to read two poems from Golden, issue 140. The first is called Everyone Dies. To become friendly with death, yoga practitioners repeat, everyone dies once every hour. Why are you telling me? The dog asks. I'm only 4. I don't feel friendly on this subject. He curls into bed. I practice saying everyone dies, but keep forgetting, and days go by without my remembering that everyone dies. Dog looks up. Didn't the yoga teacher tell you to assume the corpse pose? That's depressing. You have no boundaries, I tell the dog, who's wrapped his tail around his ears, silky as satin lining my sister's casket. Graveside, I studied the plot reserved for me, next to great-grandmother Riva, for whom I'm named. Death and naming go together, as hands go to the heart to acknowledge life as blessed. Except for atheist Maxine, who wasn't having any of it. Everything dies, I say to the marsh ferns and sugar maples and barred owl and coyote, whose kill screams in the summer dark. With my quiet mind, somewhere I can't quite place, I see that becoming friendly with death will take some time, like relaxing every hair on my head. Later, when I practice saying everyone dies aloud, the dog stirs. Did you say something to me? I'm trying to accept impermanence, I say, to embrace non-attachment. That's a hard one, dog says, offering a kind look. I forget the mantra, though I hear a song cycle playing in the background. Change, suffering, flux, death, flow. The second poem is called The Sleeper, and it's based on my new understanding of the science of epilepsy. My sister, who's deceased, suffered from epilepsy. She's one of 3.5 million adult Americans who have the disease and 450,000 children with it. The new science is developing approaches such as a pill that you can place under your tongue that possibly can arrest a seizure. When my sister was a child, those kinds of drugs were not available, and this poem evokes the childhood of someone who, at the time, had to live with uh, the existing medicines that were available. The other thing that you might need to know about the poem is that there are two references to Renaissance paintings, and in both paintings, a person is suffering from what they called the falling sickness. One is the painting by Raphael called The Transformation, and the other is a painting by San Severino, um, in which both people are having the devil inside them, their epilepsy, exorcised. The Sleeper. The new science will kiss you awake, sleeping sister, with a tablet under the tongue to stop your brain's electrical plunge. Updated version of the story I tell myself today. 50 years ago, you slept, blanketed beneath anticonvulsants. The doctors said you would outgrow the seizures, but they drugged you out of your life. You slept it off in your pink room, eyelids fluttering before you conked out. I wore your terror like a mirrored shirt. You wore the little sister's longing for my good opinion. Mine, I shouted into the pantry. Give her back to me. But you already belonged to Dilantin and Meberol and to our mother, who took you downtown where the neurology tech hooked you up for your EEG. At home, you slept. I remember how you would stop speaking and turn away. Your child's mouth open, eyes flat. Come back. I knew not to touch you. But in my big sister brain, I imagined a blue-green fabric in which you could float, protected, while I waited for you. My baby sister stranded, and I helpless. For years I studied your face for a clue to the place you went. I knew not to ask what you saw there. They used to think a devil lived inside San Severino's 15th century woman, and in Raphael's painting of the boy who looks up to Jesus in the Transformation, as the evil spirits fly from his mouth. At 6, I stood on a chair to read the prescribing information in the bag with the pills that took you away from me. Sometimes they could barely rouse you. In winter, your snowsuit and socks and boots dried by the radiator while you slept on the sofa. And I went out to play in the snowstorm, to learn to take a snowball to my neck and hurl one into another kid's head, to hit and be hit in return, to turn hard like the tough boys taking aim on the ice, their lips and fingers blue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robin.
Thank you.
Our next reader will be Joy Ladin. Joy is a poet, scholar, and thinker of profound spiritual and gender transformation. Joy authored the final essay that's a part of Sinister Wisdom 140 Golden, which I realized I forgot to hold up earlier. It is in the mail. Most folks have received it. If you're a subscriber and you've not received it yet, you can let me know. And I can send you a replacement copy. Though I may ask you to wait another week or two as it wends its way through Donald Trump's postal service, which is offering us many great challenges at this moment. But we get the bliss of enjoying now a reading from Joy Ladin.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry that I was late. It's been a bit of a tough day, but I'm really glad to be with you. I'm going to read an excerpt from the essay in the issue, which is called I Am She as You Are She and You Are Me and We Are All Together, The Politics of Identifying as a Woman. If you read the comment threads responding to articles on trans issues published online, you'll probably notice violent exchanges between anti-trans feminists and conservatives who feel their own identities violated when trans women identify ourselves as women, and trans women who feel erased when anyone denies that we are women. In a world in which both trans and non-trans women face institutionalized discrimination, hostile legislation, and physical violence, why do strangers' definitions of woman feel so dangerous? To explore this question, I want to examine one of my own experiences of the online battle over who is and isn't a woman. In March 2012, the Huffington Post published a chapter from my memoir of gender transition. The original title was Being a Man. They changed it to Transgender: Why I Chose to Become a Woman, and were rewarded with a torrent of online comments, many of which objected to the idea that I was, and that anyone not born female could choose to become a woman, including this one from Rose Verbena, a self-identified lesbian. The man in this story, like every other trans woman, is a biological male. That's what he is, male. There's nothing he can do about that but accept it. If he wants to cross-dress or behave in non-masculine ways, who's stopping him? But he will never be a woman because he's male. Lesbians have had enough of men mansplaining to us what it means to be a woman. Newsflash, guys. You'll never know because you'll never ever be one. According to Rose Verbena and many who argue against the validity of trans women's identities, physical sex and gender identity are inextricably linked. If I'm biologically male, and no matter how long I live as a woman, every cell of my body will always include a Y chromosome, then I can, quote, never be a woman. It's easy to point out that Rose Verbena is confusing two different things, and that gender is a cultural construct while sex is a biological condition. But Rose Verbena speaks for many when she insists that the term woman refers to an essential fusion of biology, socialization, and personal history. When Rose Verbena says she's a woman, she's referring to an identity forged over a life lived as someone born, raised, and always seen as female. And she sees me as exercising the ultimate in male privilege by demanding that she and others who have always lived as girls and women change their definitions of woman to include me as one of them. This isn't just a matter of gender theory or political ideology. If Rose Verbena has to accept me as a woman, there won't be any public women's-only spaces in which she and others born female can be sure they won't encounter people like me, people they see as men. A sexual abuse survivor explained it to me bluntly. I want to know, she said, that when I go to a women's space, I won't see anyone who reminds me of my abusers. For women like her, the presence of people who are physically male represents not only the memory but the threat of violence, the very kind of threat they seek safety from in women's-only spaces. But Rose Verbena's comment doesn't discuss the real-world consequences of how we define woman. Her objections to the idea that woman includes people like me are deeper, more existential than that. To her, my claim to be a woman undermines the meaning of a term that is foundational to her identity as a lesbian and a person. But despite the profound differences in what we mean by woman, Rose Verbena have a lot in common. Like her, I see the category woman as central to my identity in my life, and so feel hurt when others define woman in ways that contradict what woman means to me. To both of us, saying I'm a woman defines who we are, how we live, how we relate to others, and where we belong in the world. It's hard to talk about declarations of gender identity without triggering the kind of conflicts we see so often online. So let's turn to a fictional example. The Beatles song, I Am the Walrus, begins, I am he as you are me, and we are all together. Or, because I hate saying I am he, even for pedagogical purposes, I am she as you are me, and we are all together. I am she is both a declaration of who I am in myself and a declaration of who I am in relation to others. That combination constitutes my gender identity. But as I am she as you are me makes clear, when I declare my own gender identity, I not only define who I am, but claim an essential similarity to and kinship with others who say I am she. A claim Rose Verbena finds delusional and insulting. I'm not trying to repress Rose Verbena, and Rose Verbena, as she makes clear, isn't trying to oppress me. But the nature of gender identity means that everyone who says I am she is claiming to be all together with everyone else who says I am she. To women like Rose Verbena, that means when I identify as a woman, I undermine, erase, or forcibly redefine their identities as women. But as lesbian feminists know, not only can woman mean different things to different people, it always has and always will. To embrace this kind of gender diversity, we have to stop treating conflicts between different ways of saying I am she as existential battles, and instead treat them the way we do other conflicts that we want to resolve, by identifying common ground and working to find practical compromises for for particular problems, compromises that ensure that everyone's needs are recognized and accommodated as much as possible. This requires all of us to listen respectfully and compassionately to those who define differently than we do, women differently than we do, even if their ways feel wrong or hurtful to us, and to work toward ensuring that all of us and each of us have the freedom we need to define and live as who we are. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joy. Thank you for contributing this piece to Sinister Wisdom 140. Thank you for sending it in, letting us reprint it, and joining us this evening. It's wonderful to hear you read from it.
I'm so grateful to you for including it. Thank you.
Thank
What a
you.
wonderful issue.
Thank you. Now, I do not see Christos in the room. Christos, if you are here, speak up. I just spotlighted Yeva, who is not Christos. I think Christos was unable to join us this evening, but I asked Yeva back channel in the chat, which was a profound technology moment for the two of us to do that. I asked Yeva if she would step up and read two of Christos's poems so that her words would also be with us in the room this evening. So Yeva, please read for us.
Thank you, Julie. And it is a truly profound technological feat that I realized you were back channeling me. And I'm really honored to be able to read Christos's words today. I selected two poems for you. There are more in this issue, but the first one I'm going to read is called Story to Remove Them. This is the last time they'll be mentioned. My eraser is busy. Leaves are blowing here, a gray wind. Perhaps they blow elsewhere, but we are not concerned with enemy territory. In order to survive, we focus on ourselves, whom they so vehemently seek to erase. Our impulse to eradicate every bit of their oppression is deemed illegal. I'm breaking the law over rocks. Once broken, it no longer exists. Those who come too close are sent to live on Mars. Spring is leaping into the stiff limbs of winter. Tiny green heads pop out hungry to breathe. Birds peck for breakfast, beautifully flitting in and out. We are going for a ride in pearly clouds, wearing our best ribbon shirts, our feet tapping to the drum of the sun. Up here, no one speaks nonsense. Soaring, we heal our sores. Along our way, we pick berries to toss into our mouths, sucking with pleasure. The sky is endlessly open. We are not reduced to chattel in her arms. We loll our heads thrown back as we tenderly caress clouds. Nowhere to go but everywhere. Drinking deeply of space, we inflame ourselves with air, float on our backs over rain. Later, we may go fishing for magic with a bait of belief. You rise higher up while I hover closer to this hum of growing beings who are singing us aloft. In this story, we are safe. Evil cannot penetrate with its gaudy greed. Let's mark this so we can come here whenever we want. That was for Sunny. And the second poem I'm going to read, and because I noted who it was for, and it reminded me of our beautiful remembered celebration for Doris Davenport. So this one is called Dreaming Inside a River. Curved into Earth's home, I rush with words glittering, who whisper wanting to be born, to bear witness, bring balm, begin breathing. Salmon go by. Thousands of years have floated by these banks. I'm a guest of unrecognized people asking for a voice. sending mind downstream in rainbows, looking for a scale whose justice beats true. My feet twitch, turning to be released from this heat of their roads, breaking open with life, burning to swim in thin air. Thank you, and thank you, Julie. Thank you, everyone.
But I just said the most profound things ever while I was muted. My apologies for that. Thank you, Yeva. I appreciate it. As I was thinking about Sinister Wisdom's 50th anniversary and putting together this issue and the issue that we have coming this summer, there were two things I wanted to do. One is make sure that the issues were rooted in our past and in thinking about and reflecting on the heritage of the journal, but also just as rooted in our present and our imagined future. And so some people were mighty surprised when they opened and found Barbie tribute poems, Barbie thematic poems at the beginning of a 50th anniversary issue. I know that one of our next three readers is going to read one of those poems. I did not think it was a conflict at all, however, as I wrote in the notes. One of my strongest beliefs is that I feel that lesbians and queer women should be able to think and talk about and have a bold part in every part of our world with no restraint and engage in culture in a wide variety of ways. So I was delighted by the Barbie selections that we have here for this issue. In this second part of our time together, though, I've invited three people from the Sinister Wisdom board with active board members and people with active volunteer roles to read for us, for you to see and to reflect a little bit on our 50th anniversary. And so our first reader in this section is Leanne Wright. Many of you probably know Leanne, sliding into your email box every 2 weeks. She is the curator of the Sinister Snapshot. She's been doing it a very long time now. Every 6 months I ask her, you're not getting burnt out, are you? Do you want to keep going? And I want her to keep going because she is thoughtful and devoted and really brings us this beautiful email selection of what's going on as a living archive of lesbian and queer literature, art, current events, and all kinds of good things. So Leanne's going to be our first reader reflecting on this. And Leanne, I invite you to unmute and join us.
Thank you, Julie. That was so nice. But hello, everyone. I'm Leanne. Today I chose to read a selection from Sinister Wisdom 47, Telling It Like It Is, which was published in 1992, which was 34 years ago. And I'm going to be reading just an excerpt from one of the pieces in here by V.K. Aruna. So I'm going to read her bio from the back of this issue first. She writes, I am a non-immigrant Black feminist lesbian of dual Tamil heritage, born and raised in Malaysia, currently living in the Washington, D.C. area. I write and speak on issues of cross-racial hostility, domestic violence, and the concept of community for South Asian lesbians living in exile outside and within their geographical homes. So the piece that I will be reading from is entitled Journey in Progress. Here is Return 6. Lesbos, lesbian, 19th century terminology, European. No wonder they think they've set me free, saved me from dowry death, 15 children, and heterosexual hell. Don't understand why I don't prefer tuxedo drag, Michigan Women's Music Festival, lesbian bar scene, why they take me home like they're Benetton clothes, enter mine for a cultural thrill. tofu burgers, meditation tapes, RC religion, SM debate. I'm trying to collapse distance, fight erasure, and go home at the same time. There's a real possibility that I may go mad from being invisible as a lesbian in South Asia, a South Asian in America, and a South Asian lesbian in both geographic locations. And you want me to unblock chakras and rediscover the goddess via catalog spirituality? Have I mentioned our stone sculptures along temple walls of clit to clit, top to bottom, 3-in-1 and one for all, centuries old homoerotic love among South Asian women and South Asian men? Kali, Durga, spiritual representations of the feminine continuum. Destroyer, warrior, poet, lover, creatrix, mother. My questions are beyond finding the goddess. To talk about myself/ourselves is to keep you from making us nameless. And here are also journal notes from VK Aruna. The question for South Asian lesbians is, what license does homoeroticism give us to resist a male-centered universe and question compulsory heterosexuality? How will we maintain the close female friendships that homosocial spaces make available? To what extent can we be silent to retain the progressive circles we move in? How will we as South Asian lesbians leave the closet and remain out in South Asia without being isolated, without leading double lives, without living in self-imposed exile? What does it mean for us to live out our love for other South Asian women in South Asia and in non-America diaspora? How will I recover my Tamilian lesbian voice, my language of love, de-exoticize, re-eroticize, unstereotype the bond between two South Asian women loving each other? And I wanted to read from this issue because it was published, it was edited by a group of lesbians of color and also published a group of lesbians of color. And I think this issue will help me talk about why Sinister Wisdom has been so meaningful to me for the past few years. In the past few months, I've been diving into some archives of 80s and 90s Asian American lesbian print culture to find out more about what Asian American lesbian politics and art were looking like at this time. And this research is also just very important to me personally as I try to find sort of like a lesbian genealogy. And in doing this research, I found that VK Aruna's name has popped up several times in newsletters and also anthologies. And I was really pleased to see that Sinister Wisdom had also published her work. And I just really wanted to uplift a South Asian lesbian today. And another reason that I wanted to read from this work was because this physical copy was gifted to me by Julie, and just unexpectedly for no reason. And I just wanted to sort of shout out that I think one of the reasons that Sinister Wisdom has been so great is that Julie has been so supportive of my personal interests and my professional goals, including my interest in reading about lesbians of color from the past. And I think that's a good segue into why Sinister Wisdom has been meaningful for me. And one of these reasons is that I think intergenerational lesbian space is kind of a rare thing to find. And being part of an intergenerational lesbian space has been so incredibly meaningful and rewarding. And I think as a sort of young person, I think I'm kind of starved for a sense of connection to a larger heritage, lesbian genealogy. And before Sinister Wisdom, I actually hadn't met that many lesbians who were much older than me, kind of felt like we were all peers and sort of age group. And I just love feeling connected to a space that is so diverse in terms of not just age, but also a lot of other demographics. And I think Sinister Wisdom is a space that is very connected to the past. It has a long history, as we're celebrating today, but it is also very forward-thinking at the same time, and I felt very heartened to be part of a space that's thinking about the future and what lesbianism can mean in the future as well. So I'm so grateful to be here to learn from the Sinister Wisdom community, and I'm also very excited for hopefully another 50 more years. So thank you so much to all of you for being here.
Thank you so much, Leanne, for those great comments and for all of your amazing work with Sinister Wisdom. It's a pleasure to work with you. It is also a pleasure to work with our next speaker, who I've worked very closely with over the past 15 or 16 months. Sean Smith Cruz has been the managing editor of Sinister Wisdom and has made my life so much easier to know that I can take issues to a particular point and then Sean just like takes them to the point of beautiful final pages with our incredible designer Nieves Guerra. And I'm sad to let folks know that Sean is not going to be the managing editor of Sinister Wisdom after the middle of May because she has something exciting and new in her future, which I will let her tell you about. But I do want to say, Sean, you've been a vital part of the Sinister Wisdom community, not only in the managing editor role, but in multiple special issues that you've worked on. And regardless of your life taking you in a different direction, I know that you will be a part of our beloved community here and make many more wonderful contributions. So, Sean.
Thanks, Julie. Hi, everybody. That was so nice. I didn't realize it was going to be so nice. Like, I knew we were going to read work, but there's all this like love sharing, and I just also truly extend to you the impact that Sinister Wisdom has had in my entire lifespan, not just in the past few months, working with you as managing editor, which has been really great. And it will be announced at a different tomorrow morning what I'm doing next. I can't announce it beforehand. It's okay. But it's good because is it possible for me to share my screen while I talk, or is that going to be disruptive to everything? Yes. It's another technological question. Eva's like, good luck. I don't know. So, what's been really great as managing editor is I get the manuscripts as like a Word document, and then I get to transform it, as Julie mentioned. Oh, that's so, Ella, where'd you even find my bio? This is madness. Everybody's so great. So I have the pleasure of like, I didn't have any books on me because I'm actually not in my regular house, but I have them in my computer. So I was like, why don't we do like a read along alongside each other? So I decided to pull up two issues, of course, 140. So I wanted to read from Hollander, Tara Hollander. So here's her bio. And I thought that we could pull up just like one of her pieces. I believe this is the one that went to the printer. So we actually, let's see if I do this correctly. I'm going to share my desktop, which is dangerous because that means you can see anything. Are we seeing Tara Hollander's piece? Phew, it can always go wrong. I love when it goes right. So I figured we would read together. So Tara actually has three pieces in it, and I did a control find for her name. That's why it's green. And I recommend all three, but I wanted to read the last one because I think that one is the one that, we end on, and it also connects to a beautiful image, which you see a little piece of on the side, but it's the Jacqueline's piece next to it. That's why you have that little piece. So here is me reading from Lesbian Barbie, which I was really excited to get some Barbie pieces in and connect with these pieces. So Lesbian Barbie, Tara Hollander. I lick the crumbs of my mother's feminism, placing my thick tongue on concrete floor, lifting salt crystals to the back of my mouth. My mother and I agree Barbie was snubbed, even if it wasn't. I miss the mind we shared before I grew up, before I left her standing. Sadness makes you lonely, brimming, squishing with errant tea towels that attempt to unload your excess. A slurry of gray mush pouring from the spittle of your words. I accept this breadcrumb trail of words because she cannot say gay, let alone lesbian. She cannot look my girlfriend in the eye or watch us pose for a picture side by side. I will soon collect my crumbling heart. When accept I am more than the image of what she thought I was made for. When I come to the point, my backbone wound by an overturned stomach, where hunger outlasts fear. I thought that was so good. So for Tara, thank you for that piece. And then I wanted to read one more. I'm going to stop sharing. And this one is, as Julie mentioned, I had written for Sinister Wisdom before in the olden days, in the back in days. And part of what I really connected with Leanne's connection to Sinister Wisdom, because for me, it's always been about lesbian organizations and transitioning from this role and my old job into a new job and all of this. The transitions are always really like felt in a deep way. And I believe in community and community organizations. And so two of the issues that I co-edited with other lesbians was an issue that was a tribute to the Michigan Women's Music Festival. And also, I'll share my screen again. I just wanted to make sure I didn't get it wrong. My was this issue, which was the 45 is issue 118, which was the Sinister Wisdom tribute to the Lesbian History Archives. And I co-edited this so long ago, but what was interesting was recently a student said to me, like, tell me about your time at Lesbian History Archives. And, it was like 19, 20 years of my life. And I just actually started to cry. And I didn't expect all that emotion to come up. And I went, oh man. So I started to just be in a space of recalling. And so one of the pieces that I wrote, Julie actually put onto the Sinister Wisdom website, but I have it on my computer. So I figured I would share that one. So I'm going to just read a little bit from this one, not the whole thing, it's long, but just a couple of paragraphs. And this is from 6 years ago, fall 2020, What the Trees Said, archiving a fictional Black lesbian forest. If a Black lesbian falls in a forest, does she make a sound? I came into the Lesbian History Archives with an intense adoration for lesbian land communities. One of the first objects I picked up was La Luz Journal by Juana Maria Paz, which outlined her journey in search of women of color separatist land. Paz is Latina. She reached toward her of-color roots instead of assimilating into whiteness. And this was important for me, having an Afro-Latina maternal lineage, to consider spaces where diasporic Blackness and lesbian identity were coexistent. Paz wrote about women of color intentional community in Arkansas, but more than anything else, spoke of her displacement, her too light skin, how even on the land there was still not a sense of home. This fascinated me, her insistence that even amidst a forest of lesbians of color, she felt so alone. If a Black lesbian falls in a forest, does another lesbian help her up? I traveled with Paz's feelings on my mind that perhaps lesbians of color shared a specific kind of in-community lesbian experience after arriving at supposed gates of lesbian utopia and an incessant grappling with aloneness. The perceived absence of Black lesbian presence in feminist spaces was a reality that I learned during both my collective practice and collection mining at the Lesbian History Archives. It feels very connected to what Leanne just said, actually. Additionally, engagement with other Black lesbian artists and writers from across the world, including interfacing with organizations like Fire and Ink, an organization for Black LGBTQ writers, or Wild Cafe Theater, a feminist theater collective, or CLAGS, the Center for LGBTQ Studies, the first LGBTQ research center, meant I was meeting my makers. The largest lesson learned was that people are people, not as giant as I'd created them to be, human, beautiful, and messy and human. But sometimes Black lesbians are not human. Sometimes we are trees. I shared my connection to La Luz Journal to Flavia Rando, and as both my professor and mentor, she challenged me to imagine that La Luz Journal could be, or potentially was, fiction. This blew my mind. Would I approach the text differently if it weren't real? And what did real mean anyhow? Shortly after, I rewatched Cheryl Dunye's Watermelon Woman, canonically known for embodying the fictional creation of Black lesbian visibility. Are any of us who we think we are? Are we solely what others perceive? What are the qualifiers of existence? Was I real? I'll stop there. Thanks for the opportunities.
Thank you so much. Sean, what a pleasure. Our final speaker of the evening comes to us all the way from tomorrow. Yasmin Tambea is based in Melbourne, Australia, and is a Sinister Wisdom board member. Yasmin is a writer and scholar of diasporic histories, law, and sexuality. Her work brings a global and deeply textured perspective to lesbian life and lesbian literature. For all of our younger people here, I'm sure you've also been reading Yasmin Tambea's work in earlier feminist journals. Yasmin, I look forward to hearing you speak and read tonight.
Thank you so much, Julie. This is such a privilege to be here for this celebration. And please let me know if you can't hear me, because that would be something that needs to be fixed. My connection with Sinister Wisdom is a kind of a bit of a lengthy trip. I became familiar with the writers who contributed to Sinister Wisdom, not because I started with Sinister Wisdom, but rather because in my college and graduate school years in the United States, I read people because they gave my life meaning. I found Adrienne Rich while I was at college in Northampton, and that was my first connection, looking back, with Sinister Wisdom. Although I would not know about that until much later. And then in graduate school, reading the work of Michelle Cliff and Cheryl Clark, Irina Klepfish, who came to do a reading at graduate school in New Haven, and recognizing the synergies of Irina's stories and my own heritage as a Sri Lankan of Tamil descent. And for some of you who, or for those of you who may or may not be familiar, Sri Lanka was going through a civil war that lasted 26 years in the 1980s through to 2009. So I'm particularly grateful to Julie for printing up the Sapphic classics, because I can really relate to those collections, because those collections were, or, components of those collections were what I had on my own bookshelf. And it's always remarkable that on a teaching assistant's meager salary, that I did sort of set aside funds to read Cheryl Clark and Adrienne Rich, Michelle Cliff, Pat Parker, and others. And what Sinister Wisdom has also allowed me to do, and this is to touch on some of the issues that Leanne raised earlier when she spoke, is to cultivate and maintain certain ties of friendship through working on Sinister Wisdom issues. And here in particular, I'm thinking of the collaboration with Joan Nessel. Joan's friendship is a very long one and sort of crosses continents and time periods. And we ended up here in Australia, where we collaborated on issue number 92, Lesbians in Exile, which was published in 2014. And it's almost as if sort of living Sinister Wisdom through creating and collaborating on producing an issue. And it is that kind of collaboration that has also then opened up the space to really to cultivate intergenerational friendships. And I'm thinking here of the two of the editors of an issue that's in the pipeline, Body of Land, which focuses on writings by folks based here in Australia. And that had enabled me to be a sounding board for some issues with two of the editors who are producing that. So it's been a really great space to cultivate friendships, collegiality, and participate in the production of Sinister Wisdom and really sustaining what the journal stands for. So I'm going to read just two pieces, one from issue number 94, which came out in the fall of 2014, Lesbians in Exile. And the first one is called Tazakar by Gaida Musa. May you remember in each tongue roll, in each hint of the aroma of coffee, in each carton of figs, in each sight of rain in August. May you remember every time you hold the spine of a book, every time you pass a woman with oversized hands, every time you climb a hill that makes your calves burn, every time your hair reaches for the humidity in the air. May you remember as the breeze of summer nights make you pull your blanket under your chin, as you eat with your hands, as you drink in celebration. May you remember if your heart loses its inam, if your spine loses its kiwa, if your eyes lose their lutf. May you remember if you forget to remember. And the second piece I want to read is from issue 140, and this is Barbied Cousins by Sarah Pritchard. Mother and aunt loved dolls, made clothes, dressed in 60s twin suits, drove men wild, while tamed in penniless, domestic, preyed upon, tranquilized cages, dressed us girls up like twin dollies. We girls watched, mesmerized, horrified, miniaturized rehearsals to behave, be brave, look edible. I watched their careful, delicate hands make everything beautiful: homes, food, makeup, dresses, make do, and wipe tears after falling, tears after disappointment. Kaz and I crouch outside in our braided lives and cut off jeans, Batman shirts, prodding plastic busted womenikins, plotting our rebel-lived dollies, bouncing the stuck tiptoes in the mud for their Star Trek takeoff. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. That was wonderful. I just have a couple announcements to wrap us up, and then we have our short dance number. First of all, the Sinister Wisdom 50th anniversary auction has launched. Everyone who's on our email list will have received an email about that in the past couple of minutes. We encourage you to look at auction items and buy things and make donations to support the work of Sinister Wisdom. For our sustainers and subscribers, thank you so much. Your support is vital. And to our broader community of writers, editors, volunteers, and just every interested person, thank you for believing in lesbians' words and helping us to organize and move forward. In May and early June, we launch our next two Sapphic Classics. On May 19th at 7 o'clock, we launch Acts of Resistance with Cheryl Clark. And on June 2nd at 7 p.m., we launch the reissue of The Dyke and the Dybbuk with author Ellen Galford. These will conclude our events for the season. We're thinking about what we're going to cook up for next year. If you have ideas, please do reach out. As always, you can keep up with us at sinisterwisdom.org/events for all of that information. Tonight, given it's our 50th anniversary, we are returning to our song, The L Word by Your Girlfriend, for our dance number. Please join us in dancing. Go ahead, Izzy.
Silent people said no.
Violence against lesbians and gays has increased every year since the start of the AIDS crisis. We still fear losing our jobs. We are denied places to live. We are here today to say enough is enough. We are ready to live as full and equal members of society, and we are ready to fight
you all. We'll see you at our next event.